Yonathan, Polaard. What do you say today about what happens here inside Israel, within the Jewish people, the rift between left and right and all these things? How do you look at this?
אקטואליה יהודית עולה קומה עם טוב פלוס. הפלוס שלכם, עבורכם, בזכותכם. לדעת יותר את האמת כולה. בערוץ עצמאי, לאומי, יהודי, וחוויית צפייה שלא פגשתם. הצטרפו היום.
I have to see it within the context of Jewish history. And we have had this rift going all the way back to Cain and Abel. Okay. Am I my brother's keeper?
Right.
We had this most dramatically shown during the Exodus with the night of darkness, where people keep forgetting we lost most of our people that night.
4/5.
4/5. We had the Erev Rav that came out that plagued us ever since. We had the spies, the Meragalim, that cursed the land. And we've been suffering for that since that time. Correct. So when you go down history and you look at what happened with the Babylonians, when you looked at what happened with the Greeks, when you look at what happened with the Romans, and then later, the rift between the Zionist camp and others within the community that didn't quite appreciate the importance of coming home. We've had these rifts. The problem is that right now, these rifts are life-threatening, seriously life-threatening right now. As far as the left is concerned, I believe very strongly that they are equally responsible for the disaster that happened on October 7th. And why do I say this? They tore this country to pieces. They gave the impression that the army, our sacred army, was either incapable or unwilling of fighting.
Incapable because it is
because I did what I used to do in intelligence. I did an analysis of events and what the enemy was saying about them. And I had a PowerPoint projection of all of the incidents that were happening leading up to October 7th with the Kaplanistas and all of them, even with Yoav Gallant and Halevi saying, oh, we can't, force discipline in the army because, all of these things, I listed them as they happened. And then I had 3 other columns, what Hamas said, what Hezbollah said, and what Iran said. And my conclusion at the end of paper after paper was, war is coming. And it wasn't because of anything Benjamin Netanyahu was doing at that point. He's responsible for other things, but I don't want to get into that right now. The left pushed the timing of that war. War was coming, okay? The only question was when. And this rift did it. Now look, when I actually was asked to talk to 4 officers who were very prominent in pushing the idea that they would not fly airplanes in the event the Judicial Reform Act was passed, that their patriotism was qualified. And so I sat down with them and I said, do you believe in a Jewish state? And they said, no, we believe in a Jewish and democratic state. And I said, well, with all due respect, you don't know much about Judaism, and you definitely don't know anything about demokratia. So I said, let me ask you another question. Did we have a legal, honest, credible election in this country? Yes. Okay. And did you lose? Yes. I said, then get over it. And their answer was very interesting. They said, no, people like you, and they meant because I have a kippah sruga, or just a kippah, don't have the intellectual capabilities of running a 21st century country. Oh. And I said, really? I said, I went to Stanford and graduated high up. I went to MIT and graduated high up. But I'm not intellectually capable of running a 21st century country? Really? Be'emet? They said, no. You're unsophisticated. Mm-hmm. So I said, I don't understand your concept of democracy. We're free to vote as long as you agree with the conclusions?
Of course.
Yes. And I suddenly understood what happened in 1948 with Mapai and Ben Gurion, where if you didn't have that little red card, well, you didn't count. So this notion that we are a democracy here,
only as long
as it's approved by the left.
Right.
Now I know a friend of mine is Simcha Rotman, and he's a fantastic guy. If I want a good intellectual conversation, I call Simcha, and it's wonderful. He makes my brain work. He's a wonderful guy. And what he's trying to do is to make this country into a democracy,
of course,
worthy of the word. We're not, but the issue here, and this gets now to the hostages, the issue of democracy and the threat to democracy and the issue of the hostages have nothing to do with democratia, the defense of democracy, or the need to secure the release of our hostages. It is purely designed to topple a democratically elected conservative government. I'm not even going to say it's directed at Bibi Netanyahu, because it isn't. He's just the most apparent target. What they're going after is the whole notion of representative democracy. This country is turning conservative. There's no question about it. Not because of
demography.
Because of a lot of reasons, most of whom, Baruch Hashem, people are waking up to the threats we're facing. So I think what people have to understand, and I really touched a nerve with this when I initially was reported on Channel 14 that I had said I'm sick and tired of hearing the left talk about the hostages. And some of them have to be locked up. Why? People have said to me, well, Jonathan, when your wife, alayhi salam, was holding demonstrations for you, you didn't tell people to be quiet. And I said, there's a difference. When you're in war, everything changes, and you have to pull together. And the most important thing in war is to win. At all costs, win. And so, to the extent that these people are preventing us from winning, preventing us from focusing on the need to annihilate, not defeat, annihilate Hamas, they are aiding and abetting our enemies. This is why when I walked by a few days ago, a group of these protesters, screaming and yelling, we lost 6 people, we have to pull out of Gaza, we have to do whatever they want, give them whatever they want. I just looked at them. They knew who I was. And I said, Boker Tov, Hamasnikim.
Of course.
They didn't, and they couldn't say anything to me. If you aid and abet an enemy in times of war,
of course,
for whatever reason, you are an enemy of the state.
No doubt. I have a little question. How would you assess, in short, the relations between the United States and Israel at this time? And we are approaching elections, and we are here at a war with Gaza, possibly in Lebanon. How do you see this alliance between Israel and the United States vis-a-vis this situation?
A lot of people were surprised when, after October 7th, anti-Semitism in the United States and in the West
surged,
became acceptable. It was always there, but now, for some reason, which we can go into later, it became socially acceptable, but it was always there. As far as the relationship between Israel and the United States is concerned, basically the same thing, in my opinion, happened. The animosity towards Israel was always there, but for one reason or another, it was not
hidden.
it was suppressed. It was not politically or socially acceptable to express this animosity. Now, after October 7th, and one more important thing, the radicalization of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
This is the number one thing. We have a red, which is the woke, progressive, green alliance, which is the Islamo-fascists. You have this new alliance now. And to the extent that they have taken over the Democratic Party, and that they've also taken over the understanding of what we are as a people and what we're doing here and what our claim to the land is in the media. So the progressive politics and the media that was always opposed to us. You now have a line in the sand in terms of the relationship between Israel and the United States. We were if you read Yeshayahu, if you read Isaiah, we're told in there, don't rely on Egypt. They're a weak reed, so to speak. Well, it's the same thing now when people say to me, Yonatan, what will happen if Harris wins? And isn't it better if Trump wins? And my answer to these people are very simple. We don't know what kind of president Trump would be to America, to Israel, because it's only in the second term of a president that you really understand where that man stands with regard to the American Jewish community and Israel. He never had a second term. Second of all, Trump's understanding of the issues here is transactional. Everything is real estate. This land was given to us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Right.
Okay? We didn't buy it from somebody. Well, Avram did buy a tomb in Hebron.
David also.
And David also. But the bottom line is, our relationship to this land is like no other people's relationship to their land. And the Americans fundamentally, unless they're religious, Christian religious, don't understand this relationship. Okay. So going forward, I say to people, okay, Harris win. Let's say Harris is going to win. Chas v'shalom. What does this mean for us? What does it mean for us? And I just in conclusion, I say two things. One, we have to dedicate ourselves to military self-sufficiency at all costs. And number two, we have to finish our enemies off now. Achshav.
Jonathan, thank you so much for coming to the Tov studio. It will be continued. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
שנה טובה.
שנה טובה.
וחתימה טובה.
אמן.
אקטואליה יהודית עולה קומה עם טוב פלוס. הפלוס שלכם, עבורכם, בזכותכם. לדעת יותר את האמת כולה. בערוץ עצמאי, לאומי, יהודי, בחוויית צפייה שלא פגשתם. ועכשיו, בטוב פלוס. המתפכחים, הסיפורים האישיים על המעבר מהשמאל לימין הפוליטי. המפורסמים שגילו את היהדות. על המחיר והרווח, על האמת והסוד, שהם לא ידעו שהם לא יודעים. הצטרפו היום.